It's such an honor and pleasure to be having this call today in a but I'm super excited to be here and be present. I have a very dear sister and new friend, Naomi Love, with me on the call today. But I would first like to just introduce myself. For those of you who do not know me, I'm helping women healing their wombs through teaching them a way through their cyclical nature. So teaching you about your phases and how to really create your life around your cyclical nature. I created this platform or interview women weekly to really empower you and to share knowledge and stories. And I feel that when we as women can come to focus on really taking care of ourselves instead of giving our power away. So I'd like to introduce Naomi. Naomi, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here, sister.
Aloha, loves.
Awesome. Would you like to just introduce yourself a little and tell us where you're from?
Sure. So I'm Naomi Love, and I'm currently living in Hawaii, and I am from Colorado. And do you want me to share a little bit about me too? Okay. So I am the creatrix of the wise. Thank you. I am the creatrix of the Wise Womb Medicine Path, which is a holistic body of work that is sharing the medicine of Mother Earth and divine wisdom and spirit with the world. And I'm teaching them through experiential embodiment and deep personal healing, how to be wisdom keepers of this medicine path. And it's the culmination of 25 years of studying many modalities and many lineages all over the world. And I've worked with over 65,000 people at this point. So I have learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work. And I just kept studying and studying and studying, and seeing through each piece that I kept studying, I kept seeing how there was a void, there was something missing. So I would just study whatever that piece was. And so it sort of led me to this beautiful holistic expression that is now moving through me and called the Wise Womb Medicine Path.
Wow.
Yeah.
I immediately resonated with your work, and I'm so excited for us to dive deep into this conversation. So let us start off by first talk a little bit and what that really means.
Say the first part again, it cut out.
About the womb medicine, emotional, physical, and the spiritual world. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. So the Wise Womb Medicine Path is really in the foundation of the Maya work, which I was studying in Central America with 3 different Maya healers. And it's on the principle, it's where I learned the basic that the womb is a suspensory hollow detoxification organ that moves in and out of optimal position. And when the womb moves out of optimal position, then it can create all sorts of pathologies, whether it's physical, because it will affect our lymphatic system and our digestive system, our reproductive health, our venous and arterial system, and our energy body. It'll also affect our emotional state of being, because the womb is our center. And so if she's off center, then it can affect how we feel emotionally and spiritually. It can affect our sense of pleasure, because if the womb is off center, then it's also the cervix is off. And so I do internal work as well. And as I've been doing more internal work with people, and a lot of women are suffering from anorgasmic, meaning they can't orgasm, or they're not able to move orgasmic energy. And the womb placement can have a huge part to do with that, because if the womb is in direction, the cervix is also being affected, which will affect the vagus nerve and all of our yummy juices and the oxytocin moving through the brain. It'll affect hormonal imbalances. And then, of course, on the spiritual level, if we're not feeling centered, we can also feel disconnected because we can't call up that earth energy into our sex. We can't call it up into our womb space. And so that's a sense of disconnection. And so through this kind of work, what we're doing is we're gently coaxing the womb back into optimal position. And because the womb is a hollow detoxification organ, it means that what happens to hollow spaces, they get filled. And so it's also a place where our undigested, shamed, fear of smelling bad, fear of not being good enough, I think I heard you speak of it the other day about the root chakra. And it's our sense of stability and our sense of home and our sense of connection. And so whatever sort of imbalances that we don't want to deal with, or we are kind of sweeping under the rug it goes into our hollow space of the womb. And so what wanting to do is the reason why I ended up studying so many things beyond just the physicality of working with the womb and helping coax her into optimal position is that it's then associated to every other aspect of being a human being in a body. We need to have our breath. We need to be eating well. We need to, there's so many different aspects to being whole, in a way, and having that full embodiment.
Oh, I love that, Naomi. I really love how the way you explained it by it actually being this, this hollow space, and everything. For many of us, our sexual energy is literally suppressed, and we don't even know about this because no one's taught me that, that it actually goes and sit there until I started doing my own womb healing work. So I love that explanation. Thank you for sharing it. So beautiful.
Thank you. I'm going to hold this little silly bubble chart that I made up, and beautiful picture of the womb. And then all the little bulls are different aspects of the Wise Womb Medicine path. And it includes the breath work and tantric practices, and spiritual healing is a huge part of it, hands-on work, movement, because we need to be able to move and connect to our womb space. And if we're not connecting to our pelvic bowl, which a lot of us are really disconnected from, so that's a huge part of it. And then self-care and nutritional therapy, and what I call emotional alchemy, is how do we internalize our emotional experience? It doesn't go to that hollow space of the womb and just sit there and create more pathology and balance. And then meditation or shamanic journeying, and then herbal medicine. So it's really so important. I think that a lot of times when we're learning things, we learn like one aspect of something and we think, oh, but really we're whole beings. And some parts of us get fragmented and kind of broken off or shoved to the side because we have shame or because we don't understand it. And so this is really about how do we look at ourselves as women as the whole of being a woman, and what things do we need to do to be more in alignment so that we can be self-centered, self-centering practice, so that we can, because we need more of us self-centered, more of us in our center.
Beautiful. I love that. And did you actually create that art?
The art is by a woman named Megan Siegel, and you can find her on Etsy, but I've been a long time and she's not getting back to me, but it is so beautiful, her artwork about the womb. And it just was like the perfect explanation of, wow, this is our womb center. And so what can we do to nourish our center? And what kind of things do we need to implement to not only get our womb into optimal alignment, but then once we're in our center, sometimes we can see all the ways that we've been off kilter through our actions or through our relationships or through the choices that we're making. The more that we create that centeredness through the physical and tangible, like just bringing the womb back into optimal position, the more that we can start to see where the other imbalances are that sometimes aren't really clear to us because we're not centered. We're not in the center of our wheel, so to speak.
That makes a lot of sense, for sure. Well, that also brings us to our next little topic or point of discussion, which is New Age bypassing. This is a really interesting one.
I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, so I'll try to keep it really short. So what I'm seeing that is missing in the world is there's a lot of looking at love and looking at light and positive affirmations. And what I'm seeing is that we're forgetting to actually just let ourselves feel. So it's really important to allow ourselves to just feel what's happening right now in this moment behind closed eyes in my body. So we can all even take a moment, close our eyes and just notice what's happening in my body. What am I noticing? And then letting out a few sighs and sounds. Because what we're trying to change it, we're trying to fix it, we're trying to make it better, or we're trying to make it. And so what we want to do is, how can we actually come to the feeling and to know that all feelings are actually welcome? And a lot of the times we're trying to avoid feeling. So as we close our eyes, just getting present with ourselves and what's happening right now in my experience behind closed. What am I noticing? We're in the village, so all noises are welcome. So that's something that's really important, because in all of the new agey things that I read and that I see and what I hear, and I'm living in a very new agey place, we are not how we feel, and we're constantly looking out at everyone else, and there's ways that we're disempowering ourselves by not taking personal responsibility and not really feeling what's happening here. Rather, we're turning it out and we're saying, this is what's happening over there, or he's doing this, or she's doing that. But that is part of it. It's an and. It's not an or a but. It's an and. So when we're looking at what's really happening inside has to first. What's happening in our inner experience needs to be first, so that we can allow ourselves to feel. Because if we don't feel, we're storing it and stuffing it into our beautiful hollow organ of the womb. And then miserable, or why are really healthy, why we're not eating well, why we're not happy in our lives, why we're suffering from PMS, and it's not to say this is the only reason, but it's something that I see is really getting missed through what I call passing. It's sort of like I'm so angry. Well, just change your that to an affirmation of I'm happy. I'm like, I've heard it like 1,000 times, and I'm like, oh, how about you how about we be angry? Let's not try to fix it. Let's try to meet that part, because that part is the part that's getting skipped in all the new age things that I've seen so far. There's nothing but mind body psychotherapy that I've seen is about, and I've seen a lot, that is about really coming into what you're noticing. Yeah. So I encourage you, my loves, to, whenever you're feeling an extreme emotion that you don't want to experience, that you close your eyes and you just say, what am I noticing? And you take a nice deep breath. And so often, the last piece that I want to say with that is, when we go into what we're noticing, we also go into judgment. I'm noticing anxiety, I'm noticing fear, I'm noticing pain, but that's all judgmental. So what we actually want to do, and Shashi Soluna taught me this, is it's called a Shakti meditation, where we go in and we just start naming through sense language. So I'm noticing, instead of anxiety, it might be my heart is beating fast, right? Instead of pain, it might be I'm noticing contraction in my shoulder. So we get away from that judgment, because the judgment also creates within it a contraction. And that contraction then adds to more armoring in our bodies and then in our minds.
Wow. So informative. Thank you, Naomi. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about inner alchemy, and then working with our emotional experiences and honor them rather than, like you were saying, pushing them away.
Yes, we as humans have not been taught how to feel. It sounds like so simple, and people might be like, what? But we're not really taught that it's okay to feel. And we do a whole lot of numbing, and we do a whole lot of projecting, and it kind of ties in with the New Age bypass. Because, we can say like there's a white racism, there's some stuff going on right now with racism. And we could look at those stories and we could say, wow, they're racist and they're doing that and they're doing that, or he's doing that or she's doing that. And that all might be true. There's no minimizing it. However, in Hawaii, we do what's called ho'oponopono. And it also gets distorted out there in the world because it starts to be something that we say to somebody else, but it's actually not. The root of it is you're saying it to yourself, because it's about taking personal responsibility for what we are experiencing inside our bodies. It's what we're experiencing behind closed eyes. If you were to imagine, Spirit gave me this metaphor. If you were to imagine that everything was a hologram around you, everyone, everything, and you were to close your eyes and open it, and suddenly you're in New York City and everything's going fast, whatever you do inside of, whatever happens inside of you in relationship to that is yours. And so there's something that we're not doing as a collective, our personal responsibility for our own experiences in relationship to the world. It doesn't mean that we don't also teach people how to treat us, and that there is, all sorts of other things that are part of this. But the thing that's missing is coming in and taking personal responsibility. I see it with maybe 64,000 clients out of 65,000, is that we're very good at saying, well, my husband's doing this and my job's doing that and Donald Trump is doing this. And so true, all those things might be happening, but you are responsible for where it's going inside of you. So let's start taking responsibility for that. And that's actually part of our empowerment, because now you are responsible for how you alchemize the world around you. What you do with it matters. If there's a jerk that cuts off in front of you and you just take a deep breath and you're like, wow, that's one way to handle it. And then there's another way where you could speed up and you could honk and you could flip them off. That's another way, right? So how do you want to alchemize? You're responsible for what you do with the world. No matter what it is that's happening, what we do with it inside of ourselves. And so this is ho'oponopono. So you're actually, the action that you can take is, let's say you see something like Donald Trump and stupid things he might be doing, and it brings something up in you. It brings up anger or frustration. You can close your eyes and you can say to that anger and to that frustration, I see you and I feel you and I hear you. And I'm going to say it faster because we're in a time frame, but I do this very slowly with myself. And then you can say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. To that part that's having that experience. And that's how you can begin to alchemize what you're experiencing. And so it's like you're calling in your higher self, the part of you that is more connected to the macrocosm, to spirit, earth, to your center. And that's the part of you that's speaking to this littler part that's having a reaction to something that's happening outside. So closing the eyes, I see you, I feel you, and I hear you. And then you can say the chant, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And you're not saying it to anyone else. You're saying it to you. Because we forget to matter. Because our world is so much about looking outside. So we forget that we matter. We forget that we can have an experience, that it's okay to have an experience. And so a lot of us, even us healers, we're so used to giving and doing things for other people. And then sometimes it's like, I don't know how to do it for me. I don't know what to do when I'm sick. I forgot, like we forget ourselves. And so this is a practice of actually remembering ourselves.
Yes, 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 yes to all of that. And I think the part that I love the most is really how you call it inner alchemy, because it really honor it and feel it. It
Yes.
shifts. There's something in us, and that's real work. You know, that's where it boils down to.
Yes. Yes.
And we all have a life, we all have what we've gone through, but to really do the work, this inner alchemy, and I love how you framed it. It's beautiful. So I would definitely take that away for my own personal healings. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So what does it mean?
Say that again. I didn't hear.
Connect or realign with your higher self.
Yes. So what I love, I caught the end of that. So it was something about realigning with our higher self. So what's really important, or what I'm really seeing in my practice and with my students, is how we are not actually connecting to nature really desires. We have a lot of ways that we emotionally blackmail ourselves. So for instance, let's say there's a couple and the woman is a lesbian and she's married, but really to a man, and she loves the man, but she's really a lesbian and really wants to have the love of a woman, but she doesn't want to disappear. She's not gonna go and follow her truth. Actually, I want the love of a woman. Right. So there are all these ways that we do that in our lives where we compromise what we want because the cost seems too high to make that choice, to actually align with our higher self. And so what I started to see is that it's almost like if we were at a star, a lot of us are like this way in alignment with ourselves. And so how do we get back to the congruency of being in our truth? Because a lot of times we're not in our truth because we're afraid that somebody's going to judge us. We're afraid of the vulnerability of actually making that choice. And it could be wrong. We're afraid of being wrong or not worthy. So there are these beautiful practices of just how do you realign with your higher self? We first have to see what it is that you truly desire in life. Who that you truly are. Because if I think that I'm something, but my actions don't line up with it, I'm not congruent. And I want to be congruent. I want to be in right relationship with myself and Mother Earth. And it's no one else's version of right relationship. It's mine. And so what is my right relationship? And so often one of my teachers calls it like, if you have a fantasy and you are comparing that fantasy to your reality, you're going to be super unhappy, you know? And so it's like, what's the fantasy of who you think you really are? And then let's look at personal inventory. Let's look at who we actually are, the actions and the choices that we're actually making, so that we can be honest with ourselves, because that's part of the taking personal responsibility. And it's part of when we start doing the womb work, stuff gets moving, and we need to start seeing who are we truly and where are we truly aligned, and then how do we get from where we are to where we want to be, really. And I think that we're scared to look at it. We're afraid to see it because we don't want to, because we're comfortable. And it can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm really not who I thought I was. Wow, I'm really not making healthy decisions. Oh boy, I'm really not showing up in my relationships the way I truly want to, you know.
For sure.
I'm actually not doing what I want to do with my life, you know.
Is, you know, by staying connected to our most highest self, is following that inner truth. You know, is that guidance is to a relationship with a partner or even with ourselves, as long as we can stay in our truth, and no matter what we then have to share with the other person, because for me, most of the time, I'm so afraid of hurting the other person. So I will go out of my truth to compensate for they pain, you know, like I don't want to hurt.
Yes.
Thank you. Really resonate with that.
Yes, I love that. Thank you.
So energy hygiene, what is that?
Yes.
And also supporting the empaths in understanding how to cultivate more clarity and boundaries. Such a good word.
Yes, I love that. Boundaries. As women, we're not necessarily known for great boundaries. And what I love that it was the perfect segue, is so often, especially as women, we tend to maybe have for other people's feelings. And so what I teach in energy hygiene is actually we have to mind our own business. And so somebody else's feelings are not your responsibility. Like, of course, we are in agreements. We have certain relationships. Of course, we don't want to be a jerk. We don't want to treat someone poorly. And if we are ourselves, if we're truly honoring our highest nature, and we're truly sharing from a place of truth, I can't be responsible for your feelings, because then I'm not going to speak my truth. And so part of having good boundaries is to actually create a little bit of that separation, that although we are all one and we're all a part of this great web of creation, there's also a need to create a little structure and space that we can be a sovereign being while still in relationship. But it's okay to have needs, and it's okay to speak your truth. And it might hurt someone, and that's their responsibility to learn their own inner alchemy, to be able to process it. And then, of course, I'm going to say it again, because whenever we learn something, we think it's one or the other. It's an and. So you have personal responsibility. You speak your own truth. And of course, we have agreements. And so whatever the agreement is with that person, you still don't want to take responsibility for somebody else's feelings. Because that's actually enabling them from having their own process. They have a process that they need to learn. They need to have uncomfortable stuff too, like we all do, so that they can learn and grow. And so by not speaking our truth, we're holding ourselves back, and then we're taking responsibility for them, which isn't giving them the space to maybe alchemize or learn from something. So I love that. Like, if we look at what our motivation is, that's the first thing that I would say is, what's my motivation in telling you whatever I need to say that might hurt your feelings? My motivation is pure and not coming from ego, and it's truly coming from my heart. Then I'm comfortable sharing that. If it's from my ego, I don't say it. I wait till it comes from my heart. So we can look at, it's different than intention, because people can say, oh, that wasn't my intention. Okay, but what was the motivation? And the motivation is the thing that gives us the nudge for the action. The thing that forces the words out is actually motivation. You know, when you're angry and you can't hold it in, that, you know. And so how do we just come in and just, the more that we start alchemizing our inner experiences and getting to know ourselves and who we are inside this body, the more that we can check in and say, what's my motivation here? My motivation is to honor myself, and I want to honor this relationship. And so I'm going to share whatever it is that I need to share to be in my truth. And we need the world to, like, come on, be more truthful. As a collective, we're all kind of like freaking lying, you know? Like, we're not really being honest here. Hence all the stuff that's coming up right now in the world with human behavior anyway. Yeah. And so as empaths also, and women we're all, I think all humans honestly have this capacity for, and a lot of times we can absorb energy and we don't know that we've absorbed it. And we can start to take on. And so every time we take on responsibility for somebody else's experience or feelings, then we're actually taking some of their energy on. And then now we're not just us, we're us plus their color. Let's imagine we're a metaphor of colors. So I'm blue and you're red. Out if I'm taking responsibility for you and worried about how you might feel and is she comfortable, and then I'm going to start turning purple because our colors are going to start blending. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to feel a little funny and not like myself, and I'm going to be confused as to why. And so just the simple practice of the more that we keep coming into what am I experiencing now, and who am I truly behind closed eyes, who, if I were authentically me, then we start to know who we are. So then we can actually create those separations so that we're not taking on everybody, and so that we're not merging with their energy, then creating symptoms and symptomology. Really get sick a lot, you know, by absorbing everybody else's energies.
Yes, because that's exactly where we are, energetic beings, spiritual beings, right? Having this human experience, for sure.
Yes.
And yeah, I definitely resonate also with like the colors, and I believe that's why it's so that we know how our personal energy feels. Because that was something. Empathic, but I would always feel drained no matter where I go. And first and foremost, I didn't know how to protect myself energetically, and then I would take on all these energies. I would feel I'd be able to wake up in the morning and feel light and do my practice, whereas when I was with my partner, there was this heaviness. It was almost like heavy and difficult for me to even get out of bed. So really starting to connect and embody and feel how your energetic field feels, and then know like when you go up, when you actually this conversation. Naomi, such an honor to have you, sister. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you all so much.
Sharing everything that you shared with us. Would you like to just tell the people who's going to watch this where they can find you? I know we've posted your website on there, but where else? Maybe on Facebook?
Okay. So on Facebook under Naomi Love, I have my page, and then I also have my personal. And then the school is the Wise Path School for the Temple Arts, and that's also on Facebook. And then I'm in the middle of completely redoing websites. So let's see, my email .org if you have any questions. And then the website is naomilove.org. And then a new one will be coming as well, and that is the Wise Womb Medicine. So I'm just so honored and loved sharing this yummy energy with you, and just thank you so much. I'm honored.
Thank you so much, Naomi.
Beautiful people out there. Mwah.
Yes, thank you, sister, for beautiful tools. Thank you, Naomi, once again. It's such an honor.
Thank
Have a
you.
beautiful day, sister. Mwah.
Aloha.